All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we're tackling one of history's most persistent and honestly hilarious misconceptions. Ivy, Zoe, give me your immediate gut reaction. What do you picture when you hear Napoleon Bonaparte?
Oh, easy. Little guy, right? Like a really short, intense dude with his hand in his waistcoat, always looking grumpy. That's the image, isn't it? The quintessential short king before short king was even a thing.
Absolutely, Ivy. It's almost cartoonish, literally. All the historical reenactments, the movies, even just common cultural references, they all paint him as this vertically challenged powerhouse. It's ingrained in us.
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're here to bust wide open today. Because, folks, Napoleon Bonaparte, he wasn't tiny. He was, by all accounts, an average-sized man for his time, maybe even a little above average. We're talking about a guy who was around 5'6" or 5'7".
Wait, really? That's not short at all, especially back then. I mean, my grandma was 5'2" and she lived a century and a half after him. So 5'7" in the early 1800s, that's practically a giant.
It truly is. The average height for a French man during that period was closer to 5'4" or 5'5", so technically Napoleon was a touch taller than average. This whole Napoleon was tiny thing is one of the most successful smear campaigns in history.
Bingo, Zoe. It was pure, unadulterated, incredibly effective British propaganda. Imagine the early 19th century. Britain and France are locked in this epic, generations-long struggle. Napoleon is this charismatic, brilliant, terrifying figure who's literally redrawing the map of Europe. How do you deal with someone like that? Someone who's inspiring fear and awe in equal measure.
You cut him down to size? Literally. Oh, that's brilliant and so devious at the same time. So it wasn't even a mistake, it was a deliberate strategy?
Absolutely deliberate. The British caricaturists, people like James Gillray and George Cruikshank, they were absolute masters of their craft. They understood the power of visual satire. And they weren't just drawing him as short, they were exaggerating it to the point of absurdity.
They truly were. And the context is important here. Napoleon was often surrounded by his imperial guard who were typically very tall, elite soldiers. So when he stood among them, he might have appeared shorter in comparison. This provided a kernel of truth, however tiny, that the propagandists could latch onto and blow completely out of proportion.
Ah, the classic truth, but not the whole truth strategy. So they took a potentially misleading visual, then cranked it up to 11 in their cartoons. I can just picture these pamphlets and political cartoons being passed around, making fun of Boney, as they called him.
Precisely. And the name Boney itself was a jab, a derogatory nickname. These cartoons depicted him as this tiny, enraged tyrant, often stomping on things or being easily overshadowed. It was all designed to undermine his authority, to make him seem less formidable, less of a threat.
It's a classic psychological tactic, right? If you can make your enemy seem small, ridiculous, or insignificant, it's easier to dismiss their power and rally your own people against them. It dehumanizes them, even if it's just by shrinking them physically.
And it worked like a charm. I mean, here we are, over 200 years later, and the first thing I thought was, short guy. That's some serious long-game propaganda right there. Did they do this with other leaders too, or was Napoleon just their prime target?
Oh, they certainly used caricature and satire against others, but Napoleon was definitely a prime target because he was the existential threat. They needed to make him palatable to hate. Plus, Gillray especially had this incredible talent for capturing character flaws and physical traits and just running with them to extremes.
And the term French foot added another layer to this. There was a difference between the French foot and the English foot as units of measurement. The French foot, or pied du roi, was slightly longer than the English foot. So, when French documents listed Napoleon's height as 5 feet 2 inches in French measure, it roughly translated to 5'6" in English measure. But of course, the British press eagerly took the 5 feet 2 inches and ran with it, implying he was only 5'2" by their standard.
Oh my gosh, that's incredibly sneaky. So it was a literal measurement conversion error, or rather, a deliberately misleading interpretation that cemented the myth. They just omitted the crucial detail about which foot they were talking about.
Exactly. They capitalized on that ambiguity. It wasn't an outright lie about the number, but it was a deeply deceptive presentation of the number. And that's what makes it so brilliant and so insidious. It had a veneer of truth to it, which made it harder to counter.
It's fascinating how a seemingly innocuous detail like height can be weaponized. We see this even today, right? Think about how politicians' appearances are scrutinized, or how physical traits can be spun to create a particular narrative about a person's character or capability.
Definitely. I mean, taller politicians often fare better in elections, studies show. There's this subconscious association of height with leadership, strength, and authority. So, making Napoleon short was essentially an attempt to strip him of that perceived authority.
Gretzi, and it plays into the small man syndrome stereotype, which is this idea that shorter men overcompensate for their height with aggression or ambition. Even if that's a questionable psychological theory, the perception of it existing allowed the British to frame Napoleon's ambition not as strategic brilliance, but as a petty overcompensation for his perceived physical inadequacy.
Absolutely. It reframed his entire persona. Instead of a brilliant military strategist, he became a raging midget throwing a tantrum on the world stage. It's so effective because it taps into those unconscious biases we have. It makes him seem less heroic, more pathetic even, which for the enemy is a huge win.
So, how long did it take for this myth to really take hold? Was it instant, or did it slowly build over time until it just became common knowledge?
It was pretty quick, actually. The British press was incredibly influential, and these caricatures were wildly popular. They circulated widely, not just in newspapers but as individual prints that people would collect. So, by the time of his downfall, the image of Little Boney was already firmly established in the popular imagination, especially in Britain.
And it was perpetuated through literature too. Think about all the historical accounts and popular novels that came out after the Napoleonic Wars. Once a narrative takes root, it's incredibly hard to dislodge. It just gets repeated and reinforced by successive generations, often without anyone bothering to check the original facts.
It just goes to show you the power of a good story, even if that story is a lie. Or, in this case, a really well-crafted piece of propaganda. It's a reminder that history isn't always just facts, it's also about narratives, and who controls those narratives.
Exactly. And it's not just about Napoleon. Think about how many other historical figures or events we perceive through a lens that was shaped by the victors or by a particularly effective PR campaign centuries ago. It really makes you question everything you thought you knew.
It's a fantastic lesson in media literacy, even from 2 centuries ago. Don't just accept the narrative presented to you. Dig a little deeper, question the source, and consider the motivations behind the message. Because, as Napoleon himself might have said, history is a set of lies agreed upon, but in this case, it was a set of lies imposed by his enemies.
And now I'm going to look at every historical painting of Napoleon with a whole new level of skepticism. Was he actually looking intense, or was the artist just trying to make him look small next to that horse?
Exactly. It completely recontextualizes so much of the imagery. It's not just a physical trait. It became a symbol of his character, crafted by his adversaries. It's brilliant, devious, and incredibly effective propaganda.
So next time you hear someone say Napoleon was tiny, you can drop some knowledge on them. Tell them about the French foot, tell them about Gilray, tell them about the brilliance of British wartime propaganda. Because Napoleon was many things: ambitious, ruthless, a genius commander, but short? Not really. He was just the victim of a very, very effective smear campaign.
My mind is officially blown. Who knew height could be such a battleground? This has been amazing, RJ. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, truly fascinating how these historical myths take hold. It's a great reminder to always question the narratives. Thanks for sharing this, guys.
You got it, folks. And that's all for today's episode of History's Biggest Myths. Join us next time as we dive into another long-held belief that might just be totally wrong. Until then, keep questioning everything and stay curious.